Hello, everyone. Tarek Patel here from SB Live Sports. Another edition of Southern Section Sit Down coming your way. We've got a special guest, as they are all special, in studio. A gentleman that's been coaching high school baseball. He's in his 41st year. He's got 2 CIF championships, 23 more league titles under his belt. From Lakewood High School, Coach Spud O'Neill. Coach, thank you for coming in. I think you got to start, 41st year. Coaching, you've coached a lot of players. You've got what I think where we talk about off air, a 9th major leaguer coming up through the ranks. If you had to encapsulate 40 years of coaching high school baseball, how would you do that?
Obviously, I've lasted this long because I changed with the times. It's Gen Z right now, and I call it the boomer. That's me.
Right.
To the Zoomers.
That's good.
That's the Gen Z. So I'm learning how to coach the Zoomers right now.
What's the biggest adaptation for you? Is it the technology? Is it the type of kid now that you're coaching?
They are so tech savvy. They can get anything that they need right away. In the past, you had to look things up and trust the coaches, and then you'd go to whoever to finalize what you thought was right. Well, now everything is right within 8 seconds. I guess that's what they call it. I've been reading all about Gen Z. That's my thing, is to keep up with everybody. And that's why I last as long as I have.
Do you find sometimes, though the information is so easy to get for these kids, an answer is so easy to get, but do you find yourself having to explain yourself to players more than ever? Because I think a lot of coaches are used to saying, hey, this is the instruction. There's no discussion. You do as I say. And that's not always the case now anymore, because you've got players that are smarter and have information so fast. So do you find yourself having to explain a little more than usual?
I'm called old school all the time. And it's now you have to answer why you do things. And I'm okay with that. I've learned, my wife, Carolyn, has given me a few articles on the Gen Z kids, and it's really interesting to see how they've been brought up since the pandemic. And I wasn't really into that until I read about it. Now it's short sentences, why, and the practice has to be fun. And it's always has been for all the years that I've coached, but I've learned new tricks of the trade to keep them involved, and we're not as successful as far as wins and losses, but I think I've really connected with the kids.
Yeah, that's really important. And so let me ask you this: when it comes to creating a more engaging practice plan, what's the key ingredient? Is it more competition? Is it shorter, abbreviated practices? What keeps things engaged for your players?
Well, in fact, I brought in a folder that I have that I'm creating a practice plan for today. And at the beginning of the season, we had these long, dragged-out batting practices, and it wasn't very successful. So just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I settled in on 3-minute batting stations, and wow, we had fun. I've learned myself, as far as that goes. So even as the old coach, I'm still learning.
Yeah, that's really important. If I could take you back to how you got started, how did you get into baseball? Did you always know you wanted to coach it? Were you a player yourself? Please tell us a little bit about the origin story of Spud O'Neill a little bit.
Yeah, I went to St. Cornelius in Long Beach, and I played in the Catholic League there. Played Pony League at Whaley Park. I lived in the Milliken area. then my parents sent me to St. Anthony's, which was a great move on their part. I still have friends that are close friends from those days. Played at Long Beach City College. Got to meet Joe Hicks, who was one of the best coaches at that time. Learned a lot from him. But my grades weren't too hot in those days. And I was drafted. Went to Vietnam. I was drafted into the Army. I'm a Purple Heart veteran. When I got out, I thought I was going to play at Long Beach State. But I had bursitis in my arm. And Coach Gonsalves, who was a friend of mine, he actually coached me in American Legion. He and I decided that, I could hit the ball pretty good, but there was no DH in those days. I couldn't throw the ball across the infield. I was a shortstop third baseman, and I couldn't even get it to the pitcher's mound because of the bursitis that I contacted in Vietnam. And so I turned to coaching at St. Anthony's High School, and that was my first gig there. I was an assistant coach. I coached football and baseball.
How much did you from that first job? And thank you for your service, by the way, of course. From your first job, when did you kind of fall in love with being around young people? Because I think that's generally the common denominator with coaches, especially at the high school level. And someone doing it as long as you just have to enjoy being around young people.
Oh, certainly. It's. I love to teach, and I've gone to clinic. In the old days, you didn't Google like these young coaches do now, and there was a lot of clinics. So I got to see John Scalinas and Augie Garrido and all those guys speaking. John Herbold, who I took his place at Lakewood High School, Palm Springs. I saw Tony Gwynn and Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly,
Sure.
in Palm Springs. And if you go to my files, I have from 1980s, Dave Snow from Long Beach State. I have all their notes from their clinics that they gave, and I use that in my practice.
Growing up in Long Beach, coaching in Long Beach area, how important is community to you? And is that something you preach to your players and through your program?
Everybody knows everybody. It's like, the Milliken kids know the Lakewood kids and the Poly kids and the Wilson, Cabrillo. When we go on, it just cracks me up when we go to a game and then after the game they're all hugging each other.
Right.
It's a war
In between the lines, sure.
But it's pretty cool. I played at Whaley and there were some very talented players there in those days, and there still is.
What about baseball year round? What there is so many families that get sports specific and their kids are playing. If it's not high school, it's travel. Then they're literally traveling all around and tournament this, tournament that. What do you think about one sport year round?
You're talking about travel ball?
They're talking about travel ball. I think more in a general term too. It could go for the basketball kid. It could go for the soccer kid, right? It's kind of just seems to be all the time. Your thoughts on your thoughts on that?
I have some thoughts about travel ball. We get most of our kids, I'd say 80% to 90% of the kids play travel ball and play in the fall. And now we play also during the fall. And we'll have 1 or 2 games a week.
Sure.
And we're competing against tournament teams that are travel with our kids going to those things. Well, I don't mind them playing. I really don't. But when they come back, they're not taught anything. They just swing the bat. They don't play great defense, and we have to reteach this stuff. And I don't get paid like those guys do.
Right.
It's like they get those tournament fees, and these guys get all this money. We'll teach them. That's my thing.
Yeah, no, that's a fair. It's I'm more of a basketball guy myself, but the way I could relate is you get these coaches, and the cliche line is they just kind of roll the ball out and let the guys play, and then the high school coach gets them for season, November, late October, something, and you're like, man, you're like the same player I saw last year. You haven't gotten any better, and all you've been doing is playing travel ball. So I'm sure that applies for baseball, and you have to almost undo maybe even some bad habits that have been established.
I've had that conversation with Dwayne Cooper, who is our basketball coach and played for the Lakers. Great guy. And I used to watch him when he was playing for us in basketball. And he has the same thing that you just got through saying. It's difficult, attention span, that sort of thing. And he had a very good team this year, and hopefully next year. But he's learning how to cope with those kind of kids.
They did have a good year this year. I think that it was them and Long Beach Poly for the Moore League title. I do remember that. Lakewood had a little good year. That's right. Sticking to the baseball diamond, of course, when you have a really high-end player, and we're going to get to some of your major league players that you've coached, what seems to be the common denominator? When you have a real special player, what do you see almost immediately, and you go, okay, wait a minute, this young man might be special?
That's a good question. That Chris Gomez was the first guy that I really, and Damian Easley, they both played on the same team. Damian was a senior, and Chris was a sophomore. Damian was our center fielder. We tried to make him a shortstop, but we didn't have enough time in those days. We didn't have foul ball in those days. So it was just a matter of we put Damian out in center field. We told the left fielder and the right fielder, just go sit down over there.
He's got the whole outfield. You're good.
And his nickname was the Rabbit.
Okay.
He was. You could tell that he was going to be something special, but he didn't become that until he played at Long Beach City College and really turned it. And they made him a shortstop and second baseman. So, and then Chris Gomez. Here's another one. I used to leave the practice, and he was still on the field practicing by himself, and he had a nice career at Long Beach State. Then he played for the Padres and a few others, and had a nice career. So that was cool. Now there's Mike Carp, who I had to wake up every morning. I had to call him to get to school.
Okay.
And he, our nurse actually worked with him also to find out why he has to sleep all the time. But Mike could flat out play.
Okay.
And he was a sophomore, and he broke our home run records.
Okay.
And if you know our field, it's pretty big, and he did a great job for us. Travis Darno. I kept calling these different colleges, to let them know about Travis. Travis said, "Don't call any colleges. I'm going to be in the major leagues." So that was his goal.
Okay.
And obviously it came true.
What was, other than, it sounds like sounds like there was one gentleman who you couldn't get off the field because the hard work was there. But I'd say most of these guys, they just had the talent, and it was easy to spot.
Absolutely, yeah.
For a gentleman that you had to call to get to school, man, he sounds like the Lord gifted him with the ability to play baseball, and that was about that. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit a little more about getting those kids that are talented, and then if you can just thread some of your wisdom into them. Sky's the limit, but it's not always that easy, is it?
We have our standards at this, for our team, and every year some kids challenge the standards, and that's my job is to teach them how to be good human beings, and it's the fun part about this. Now that I've been doing this for so long, just the other day we played Cabrillo High School, Jordan High School, and two of my former players have kids on Jordan's team, and they came up and gave me a big hug. And one guy owns a trucking company now, and he was one of our better players.
Yeah, I think one of the better stories from this prep year are these stories of players that don't transfer. Caleb Sanchez from St. John Bosco, quarterback,
Yes.
3-year, basically sat on the bench, never got in the game. His parents actually wanted him to transfer, and he said no. I'm going to stick it out with Coach Jason Negro at St. John Bosco. And he was a senior starter, and they had a terrific year, got to the Division I final. They fell short, but that character building time for him, it paid off. And he got praised for it, actually, for sticking around. And so that's the school of thought you like to hear about, don't you?
Yes, yeah, and we had we're a very young team. We have 4 sophomores that play a lot, and 2 of them should probably be on the junior varsity team. But we lost 3 seniors. That would be one would be our right fielder, one would be our center fielder, and I'm trying to think here. Center field, right field. Second base, and they all had their different. They didn't transfer out of the school. One is becoming a welder at Long Beach City College. He's a senior. Another one is running track, and the other boy is helping his family. So they chose not to play this year, which, I said I was hoping that they'd change their mind, but they didn't. So now we have a whole new team that we're putting together, but that was their choice.
Right. Right.
It's a different world.
It is. And I think at the end of the day, you'd rather see maybe you'd rather see that scenario play out where a kid has to do something else, but they stay at school.
Yeah.
Than jump ship and go somewhere else. So
Absolutely.
you're kind of good in your book there.
Exactly.
Right.
And they come to our games.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. The one more kind of thing about baseball, the playoffs. I like to ask baseball coaches about the playoff system. A lot of coaches would like to see a little bit of a different playoff system because, as you well know, baseball, can be real hit or miss on any given one day when you've worked so hard. So would you like
the haves and the have-nots?
There you go. That's exactly right. Yeah. So on any given day, or would you like to see a little best out of 3 series through the playoffs? Or do you like that? Hey, this is high school baseball. It's cutthroat. You win or you lose and you move on. Which would you prefer?
Well, I was on the advisory committee the past several years with Rob being the CIF commissioner. And that would always come up. I'm old school as far as that goes, one and done.
Yep.
Would it be fair? I know the young guys all want to.
They do.
They want that 2 out of 3.
Yeah, they do.
Now do it the right way, and it'd be fine. But you can't please everyone.
Sure.
And the thing is, now let's talk about the state playoffs.
Okay.
How many of those teams actually played?
Right.
They
You're talking about
out.
they talk about opting out.
And Bishop Amat wasn't even in it, and they won the whole thing.
Right. Because they got to scramble to find teams to fill the gaps.
Yeah, Joe did a great job of putting them in.
So are you suggesting maybe a fix for that?
Yeah, don't have a state playoff, and you can get your 2 out of 3 during the school year.
So extend the southern section playoffs is what you're saying, so you can get more games in.
You have to do it during the school time. Well, we're starting later in the season now. To begin the games. Well, that kind of why not start earlier again?
I see what you're saying.
And then at the end of the year, have your 2 out of 3, if they can work that out. The young guys, I'm out of that part.
You're right. The regional playoffs, if you stay alive, basically school's out and you're still playing.
Yeah.
You're saying you don't like that.
Well, the seniors that have their Hawaii trips.
Right. They're
parents
done, man. They want to get out of town.
Absolutely.
What about I thought that's certainly one option. I also thought to myself, baseball doesn't have a state championship. It's only regional champions. And I always thought to myself, well, if they were able to get a state championship, now I don't think you'd have as many teams opt out because the crown jewel is now available to win. What do you think about that? So, and I'm saying, no, we're going to add a game at the end of the year, Coach.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. Do you really need a state champion?
No, that's a good question.
In high school, and the thing is, there's all the mythical things that have gone on forever.
Right.
And we've been number one. Lakewood has been number one in the nation. Okay, yeah, right. We've had some great talent. Mike McNary was in '87, pitched every inning but 2 in the playoffs. So now they have the McNary rule, which you have a 10 inning.
The rest.
Yeah, so that was the McNary rule, and there's a lot of history. I can live with it if they do it the right way.
Right. I understand.
But you should hear the give and take in those advisory committees. I just keep my mouth shut, and I'm the old guy.
So for you, it sounds like that Southern Section championship. You think that's good enough?
Absolutely.
It's difficult as it is. It's challenging. It's a great section. Let's call it a day after that.
Baseball.
There you go. Okay, so that's what you
I love watching those teams.
Right.
That, get to the finals and semifinals, all that.
I know it's a Southern Section show. I get it, but I gotta ask, just because there's so much history there, and you've been around. What are your City Section baseball and that final being played at Dodger Stadium and stuff like that? Did you ever go watch City Section baseball?
We play Narbonne.
Right.
And a few others, and Billy Dillon at Narbonne is a great coach, and it's on a smaller.
It is, no question.
Terms, and they might. If there was a way to include them, that'd be awesome.
That's where someone would go, well, that's what the regional playoffs are for. But I get what you're saying. I just always think the city section is unique in that, yes, it's a smaller section. And, back in the day, the level was really high. It's not so much that way anymore. But the opportunity to play at Dodger Stadium in the city championship
awesome.
can't get any cooler than that.
Those kids love it.
There you go. And that's that crown jewel we're talking about, So I was kind of curious on your thoughts.
We play the city schools in the fall.
Sure.
And it's fun, and they're good too, the Orange County groups seem to are loaded now.
Oh yeah.
It's really gone that way. Our Moore League was down, but now we're starting to get the lower levels are starting to get some players again, and pitching and the parents have been great.
Supportive. That's good. That's good. I wanted to ask you, in your 41 years of coaching, who might be the best high school baseball player, and you can name a couple here, that you've seen, whether it be on the mound or at the plate. Are there any names that pop off the diamond for you, and you thought, man, and then now he's in the major leagues or something?
Klecko from Westminster.
Okay.
And then at Westminster, the kid that hit a home run against us at Villa Park. It was played for the Angels, third base.
Mm.
Big guy.
Okay.
And our guys, Crawford, J.P. Crawford,
right.
in Seattle. He was a can't miss as a ninth grader. We didn't have any ninth graders ever play for us or start, and we had him at the end of the year. But JP came in. He was special. Mater Dei wanted him.
I love it. I love it.
They
Okay.
kept calling him.
Oh, that's so great.
So he said, but all his buddies were with us.
Okay.
I mean, those were the days.
Is he probably the most notable name to come out of the baseball program at Lakewood? Because that's the name that stuck out to me, at least, and I'm not a huge baseball guy, but
because he gets a lot of TV time.
okay.
And Darno has really come around, and with the. We have 3 World Series rings.
Okay.
Okay, so Carp with Boston, Travis with Atlanta, and then what's the other one? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. No, that's all right. That's all right. To go back to JP real quick, I'd like for you to actually dive a little deeper on him. Why did he stand out so much so early? What was he just? Give me a little more on that.
Okay, we had a very good team, and when he was a freshman, and Jeff Yamaguchi was our shortstop, and Jeff played at Long Beach State. Jeff came to me and he said, "Coach, I can play first, because this freshman kid is better than me."
Wow.
So we put him in, and it was we were very good that year.
That's awesome. Well, good on you, Coach, for listening to your players. So not a lot of coaches do that. No, they
It's all part of it. It's communication.
There you go. There you go. Before we wrap up here, you're in your 41st year. I'm sure you've been asked this a million times. How much longer do you want to coach? You said it earlier. You're still having fun. You're still learning.
Do I want to coach forever?
Okay.
Okay, but I know that the time is coming. My health is. I'm on oxygen right now as we speak, and I'll battle that back from that. But I had pneumonia, and I was in the hospital for 6 nights just recently, so missed a game or two. And John Yankel took over, but all those guys.
So you kind of like that you kind of like the underdog kind of grind it out and get your shot at the big dog. You like that?
For a long time, we were the guys
that. Everyone was trying
after. And now they don't even talk about us.
Okay, you got everyone's best shot. When was the last time Lakewood was that type of team where everyone got your best shot, Coach?
Just before the pandemic.
Okay, so not that long ago.
No.
You guys were right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Coach, hopefully we can get you back there again. Thank you so much for joining the Southern Section Sit-Down Show.
Loved it.
Yeah, no, hope you had a little fun. Spud O'Neill joined us today, Lakewood High School, more than 41 years coaching high school baseball. 2 CIF titles, 23 more league titles. He's got accolades forever. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, scorebrooklive.com has all your high school sports coverage across the country. Of course, here covering the CIF Southern section. I'm Tarek Fattel, and thanks for watching.